open, but hopefully it will be before too much longer. And they eventually hope to run train rides down to Glenray in a couple of years' time. Hopefully that will be available, but at the present moment you can't go into the Rail Museum. They say there is the biggest collection of rail memorabilia in the world. Originally people came to Dorrigo because of the timber. At one time there were lots of mills. It was a very large industry here in the early days, the getting of the timber, mostly cedar, but there's also tallow woods and other trees which are good timber that they would have taken out as well. And that's probably as much as I can tell you. Thank you for coming to Dorrigo.
इंफॉर्मेशन सेंटर से हमें ग्रिफिथ माउंटेन टॉप लुकआउट की खबर मिली और हम फौरन ही इसकी तरफ रवाना हुए। यहाँ पर खड़े होकर डोरिगो के प्लेटो होने का बखूबी अंदाज़ा होता है। हर तरफ ही पहाड़ी सिलसिले फैले दिखाई देते हैं, बेहद हरे भरे। देखने पर ऐसे लगता है जैसे कि शनील पर सिलवटें पड़ी हों। ये इलाके यूं ही हरे भरे दिखाई नहीं देते, बल्कि इसकी वजह यहाँ की रेनफॉल है। न्यू साउथ वेल्स के ये सबसे ज़्यादा बरसात वाले इलाके हैं और अगर यहाँ की बरसातों की तारीख पर नज़र डाली जाए तो एक बड़ी ही दिलचस्प बात सामने आती है। जब भी यहाँ पर ढेरों ढेर बारिश पड़ी तो यहाँ के पोस्ट ऑफिस के आसपास ही पड़ी। एक दिन में 809 मिलीमीटर बारिश का हो जाना कोई मामूली बात नहीं है। जैसा कि हमने बताया कि 1860s में यहाँ पर लोग आकर बसने लगे। कहा जाता है कि उस वक्त 10 शिलिंग 40 एकड़ के एवज एक बरस के लिए लिए जाते थे। यहाँ की ज़मीनों पर आकर लोगों ने कपास बोई और मवेशी पाले। ज़मीन बहुत ज़रखेज़ थी, उसमें उगे हुए रोज़ वुड, सिल्की ओक, सीडर, मार्बल वुड और आर्कटिक बीच के पेड़ एक बहुत अट्रैक्शन रखते थे, जो कि कभी इन्हीं दरख्तों में शामिल होंगे जो कि हमें सामने बेलिंगर वैली में दिखाई देते हैं। ये तो थी नाज़रीन हमारी आज की सैर। अपनी सैर की अगली किस्त के साथ जल्द ही आपकी खिदमत में एक बार फिर हाजिर होंगे। जब तक के लिए हमें इजाज़त दीजिए और हमें अपनी दुआओं में याद रखिए। अल्लाह हाफिज़।
ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين.
Join us after the break as we present a program from our archives, a question and answer session with Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV, Rahimullah Ta'ala.
المميت the giver of death, the one who brings death to all creatures. How can you disbelieve in Allah? When you were without life, He gave you life, and then He will cause you to die, then restore you to life, and then to Him shall you be made to return.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ربنا آمنا فاغفر لنا وارحمنا وأنت خير الراحمين.
ऐ हमारे रब, हम ईमान ले आए हैं, सो तू हमको बख्श दे और हम पर रहम कर, और तू सब रहम करने वालों में से अच्छा है।
Our Lord, let not our hearts become perverse after Thou hast guided us, and bestow on us mercy from Thyself. Surely Thou alone art the bestower.
Now we turn to the ladies, if you still are in touch with us. One sound. Yes, please.
The lady asked me some days ago,
Yes.
that would you like to see Salman Rushdie's book banned? She said, I want a straight answer, yes or no.
Why straight answer? I can't understand that. This is a wrong attitude. A man with such wrong attitude should not be given a straight answer. You see, sometimes you cannot give a straight answer without misleading others. Once in New York, a non-Ahmadi Maulvi who had come to interview me asked me exactly the same question in the same way. Not the same question, but a question in the same style. He said, do you believe in Hazrat Masih Maud, the founder of the Ahmadiyya community, to be a prophet or not? I want a straight answer, that's all. And this interview was to be televised. I knew thereby he could mislead others. I said, sometimes you cannot give a straight answer of yes and no, it's not possible. He said, no, you can, why not? It's illogical, your position, and I can't understand. You can say yes or no. I said, all right, I put you a question to you, say yes or no. Have you stopped beating your mother? Yes or no? You see? Then he was absolutely nonplussed. If he said yes, that means he used to beat her. If he said no, he's still beating her. So, some answers in yes and no become misleading in themselves. We have to make them understand our position. Banning or no banning, in fact, this should give us an occasion to make them understand the Muslim position, to give them an opportunity to project themselves into the position of those 1 billion people on earth who have been deeply hurt and injured. For what cause? They say, in the name of liberty of speech, but my answer to them always is that if tongue and lips have liberty, why not ears? If pen has liberty, why not eyes? And you make differentiation between one liberty and another in your own daily system of life. I have been, during my question and answer sessions everywhere in Europe, this question always comes up now. This is the most popular question. And I tell them, look here, in your parliaments, let's say in the British Parliament, if somebody uses harsh and abusive language against the Prime Minister, how would he be treated? Will he not be chucked out of the House of the Parliament or made to swallow his words because you would say he is using unparliamentary language? Where is the right of liberty to speak? Then what are libel cases? The wife of a ripper has been granted £600,000 in the name of libel. So a ripper's wife has that right in your society. If her sensibilities are hurt, your law must protect her. But if the sensibilities of 1 billion people on earth are hurt regarding someone they loved thousands of times more than anybody could love that woman, then you do not care in the name of liberty. This is imbalanced. This is not a sane, balanced approach at all. So these things have to be made, to be explained. And when you begin to explain them, then these people understand. Of course, they're logical people. So don't give an answer in yes or no. Make them understand. As far as our position is concerned, we believe in the liberty in the sense that anybody is at liberty to do however he behaves. But after exercising that liberty, then comes the punishment. Anybody is at liberty to murder anyone. Anybody is at liberty to abuse anyone in the streets or they make noises. And then, of course, he suffers the consequences. At least the consequences in this case should have been that the whole society should have risen and blocked to condemn him. Not to eulogize him. Not to raise his status as a writer of world fame and world status. So it is the attitude of the society which is injuring the Muslim sensibilities. You're siding with filth and abusiveness, and you're encouraging the crime of hurting others. So this is the final analysis which we do not like. You understand, I hope? Yes, yes, please.
Yes, shall I continue?
Please, yes, do.
When she cornered me to saying yes, because she said, I want a straight answer, yes or no, and I said, yes, we would like to see the book banned. And she said, why? And I said, because it is distorted and it is offensive. And she said, okay, if you think that that is the reason for banning the book, then the books that your community have published, they are offensive to a lot of other people.
Yes.
So then other people are justified in banning your books.
So what was your answer?
Good, I was left nonplussed, I didn't know.
That is the consequences of taking the first step in the wrong direction.
Yes, I realized that.
You see, again, I'll tell you, there you are, your position is defensible. The British law itself has made this question very clear. What is blasphemy? This is a judge-made law which is very clear and sensible on these issues in drawing lines between what is offensive and what is not. That law says that if you deny even the truth of Jesus Christ and argue against the truth of Christianity, this is not blasphemy. The way you say it, if you use abusive language, a language which is intemperate, and obviously the language in itself, in its quality, is offensive, then this becomes blasphemy. So this is exactly our position. We have been disagreeing with the doctrines of Christianity. Of course, we don't. Every religion has that right, and every religion disagrees with the doctrines. But they behave sensibly and in a civilized manner. For instance, I have been pointing out to such questioners who have put me in the same position as the question put to the lady, that all right, consider your position vis-a-vis the Jews. The Jews believe that Jesus Christ was not a legitimate child, and you know it. And their holding to this position is not blasphemy, not considered blasphemy by you. But if they start calling her names which are offensive, then that would become blasphemy. So they don't believe that Mary was chaste. Of course, everybody knows it. They don't believe that a miracle happened, and they know the birth must have been a result of human conjugation. And that conjugation was not between husband and wife, so these facts all speak for themselves. But they do not go to the streets and say Jesus was this and that, like Salman Rushdie said about Hazrat Ismail. You know, speaking of a great prophet, he was not even a Muslim prophet, and much before that, son of Abraham. He says he's a bastard. Can't you understand? Don't you have sense enough to distinguish between blasphemy, abusive language, and a difference of opinion? So Ahmadi books all express difference of opinion in civilized language, and no sane man can declare it to be blasphemy. Now, your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum rahmatullah.
Recently,
excuse me, I want to add a little, a short observation. On this question, I have already spoken at length to many correspondents. Some came from as far as Finland, and some came from here and other places. And all these cassettes are understood to have been distributed to the whole Jamaat. Now that shows me the weakness of the system. If enough, if measures were taken already to let all Ahmadis know that this is what we have already in our hand, then such mistakes would not have been committed. It shows that when these cassettes are distributed to the Jamaats, the person responsible, who is audio-video secretary, sleeps over these things and does not take the pain to apprise the Jamaat of what he has received and what it contains. So that exercise becomes futile and meaningless. We distribute at a big cost. Quite a few people day and night are working voluntarily on this system. So the Jamaats, and here you are the representatives of Jamaats of England, must take this, must approach this problem more seriously and meaningfully. Whenever you receive a cassette from the center, it is the responsibility of the officer in charge to let all the Jamaat know what he has received, so that if from then on they stand in need of such a thing, they can have access to that cassette. Now, please, you can ask the second question, or the first question.
So recently there appeared in a Urdu press a letter, a copy of the letter, which the newspaper said was supposed to be written by Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I understand.
To whom?
Well, I don't say who to read, but my question is that I understood Rasul Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Ummi. Could that letter be an authentic one?
We know there are authentic letters preserved. For instance, the letters he wrote to the kings with his seal, they are well preserved, and but it was not his own writing. Someone else wrote those letters for him as he dictated, and then he put his signatures to it because he had learned to put his signature, and then a seal was also stamped on that. So this is nothing doubtful about it. We know positively such things happened.
The impression given in this paper was that this was written by Azur's own hand.
No, this is wrong. According to my knowledge, I have read quite some on this question. There was not a single letter which was written entirely by Anzar in his own hand. Only he signed on the dotted lines, and he dictated the letters too, of course. So the language was his and the signatures were his, but not the writing.
Exactly.
Yes, please.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I'd like to ask you a question, stemming from the previous one on borrowing and mortgage rates, and it is following. What would be the Islamic way of running an economy with the absence of interest rates, especially since a lot of investment is dependent upon high rates of return on money, and that trade is dependent upon the exchange rate, which is greatly influenced by an economy's interest rates?
On this issue already I have spoken among other, during my question answer sections in various places, particularly here in Geneva as well. I took it up, and although this answer requires a longish treatment, it's a very involved question. It has to be explained fully from all angles, discussing the philosophy of Islamic system of economy, how it applies, how such a system can run in an overall system of the world which is un-Islamic financially, and so on and so forth. All these questions have to be answered in detail, which I have been able to answer partially during various addresses and question answer sessions. So I think we don't have time at present to deal with this question. You better have access to this Geneva cassette, which is available, And why I speak of it, because it's fresh in my mind. I know this question has been discussed. So in short, I can tell you only this, that Islamic system of economy does not run on the accepted principle that the money must grow. According to Islam, money in itself is just a means of transfer of values. And unless money is wedded to human values, we cannot find out whether it is going to grow or decrease. So it has both sides open. It can grow as well as decrease. So because usury system only speaks of one-sidedness of money. It must grow, so you must pay for what money you borrow. So this is a top heavy system which is not equitable to society as a whole. This question has been discussed by me in detail, and this I learned from a small to short tradition of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which is so simple but is so potent with deep wisdom. Once in answer to a question he said, does your money bear children? Is it productive in itself? You put money somewhere in a locket, in a casket, and when you reach it later on, would you find it having grown, having multiplied? The answer was no. So he said, just money itself doesn't mean anything. When it is wedded to human values, then it can either grow or decrease. So trade is valid, and all such partnerships where both possibilities are left open of sharing of loss, of profit as well as loss, that is Islamic. And that in itself is enough motive force to run the wheel of economy. Partnerships and shares with full responsibility, that if somebody makes profit out of the money he borrows, then you share the profit even beyond the so-called interest rates. And if he suffers a loss, then you should also suffer a loss along with such a person. So the guarantees would only be regarding the integrity and honesty of such people or firms. So Islam promotes those values in its system automatically. People would go only to such houses and such companies who have high reputation in integrity, because then they would know that whatever they earn, they would share their profits, etc. Otherwise, they will not go to them. Also, their cleverness, their experience, their qualities of handling trade and industry, etc., would also earn them a fame whereby they would become magnets of attracting money from others. So that is exactly what happened in the early Islamic system. A strange thing happened which you will not find today in the world. Today, you do not deposit your money with mullahs, with the Muslim scholars. You never trust them. But in older days, they became the wealthiest people in the society, because they were not just scholarly people, but they were also honest people. And also, they did not live on the alms of others. They were regular members of the society and the economy, and they shifted for themselves. So these two qualities made people to run to them and deposit their monies and to beg them to make them their partners, sleeping partners, of course. So Hazrat Imam Abu Hanifa, one of the greatest jurists in the world of Islam, with the largest following in the world of Islam, became multi-millionaire because of his capability as a good trader, and also because of his integrity. People sometimes used to leave heaps of money with him despite his protest, I don't have any employment for it. But he said, all right, if you ever have an employment, we would come and find out. So that was happening. The values were enhanced and values were brought to a sharp focus. So the financial system also promoted human values of integrity, etc. The present system works the other way around. Here, for a successful trade and for successful industry, you have to be a good cheat as well. And, a sharpshooter sort of thing. Otherwise, you can't stay above the surface. So the whole system is completely different. The atmosphere is different. And again, the system works on a negative approach, not on a positive approach in a way. By negative approach, I mean, according to Islam, the money must always remain in rotation. No man has right to sit on money. And if he has amassed treasures of money, then he must pay fine instead of his earning interest. He must pay fine. This is zakat. So the compulsion there must be for running the wheel. In Islam, such a person is charged for holding money, not paid for holding money. So it is exactly the opposite of capitalist system. In capitalist system, the money becomes to mount upon money and so on. Minarets are created where they become ultimately, they lose balance and then they topple down. And the whole financial system topple down. This is what we have witnessed repeatedly during the past century or so. So in Islam, no such thing happens, because the money by itself does not attract money. There are other values which have to be coupled with it. So that's just a short illustration of how this question has to be tackled. But this requires a much longish answer, in fact, and much larger comparisons. If I'm given time, I'm thinking of speaking on this subject during some of my speeches during annual conference. But the problem is that such subjects have to be prepared. You have to have a lot of data and comparative data, particularly, to compare the financial system of capitalism on the one side and financial system of communist world on the other, and the philosophies. So it is a subject which requires a lot of attention and spare time, which unfortunately at the moment I can't have. But I have in my background, generally speaking, I have the blueprint of such an address. Yes, please. Hayat Sahib. Wa alaikum salam. How do you know that Hayat Sahib is now itching to ask a question?
I'm going to ask a question. It's quite important for women.
Yeah, but have you received my message or not yet? You don't understand what I'm saying. You know Mr. Bashir Hayat, don't you? Do you know Mr. Bashir Hayat?
No, sir, I don't know.
You never heard of him? You never heard of him?
I heard, but not now.
So you see, you have deeply hurt Mr. Bashir Hayat. You're the only person who says in the world that she has not heard of Mr. Bashir Hayat.
This is where I come from, my sisters.
All right, leave the question. What I wanted to convey to the ladies was this, that Mr. Bashir Hayat is trying frantically to be given a chance to put in his question. So after you have asked one question, then I would request the ladies to give him this chance, then we'll turn back to the ladies again after this. All right? But for this once, I invite you to ask the question, please. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Is the communication link severed or what happened?
My question is about women.
Yes.
When they go for Hajj,
yes.
Islamic teaching, they should go with their mahram. Sometimes, unfortunately, women don't have anyone to go for the Hajj.
To go with?
Yes.
Yes, right, yes.
So, in this situation, could you please explain what should they do?
What do you think they should do in that case? Pardon? What is your personal inclination?
I went hajj without any mahram.
So you already you have done it. You should have asked your question before that.
I was going to God and I came to you, and you didn't ask the questions for me.
So you already blame me for that. So what is the fun? What is the point in asking this question after the event has taken place? But I assure you one thing, that as far as the question of mahram is concerned, the underlying spirit is that you do not travel with a non-mahram alone.
Yes.
So that there is the danger of your evil thoughts to mislead you.
Yes.
But in the modern ways of travel, where you travel in public,
Yes.
in aeroplanes and etc., this question is not applicable.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So there people used to travel individually, for instance on horseback or camelback, and there a man and a woman who are not related to each other, if travel at night and during the day, outside the sight of people, they could think of any evil things. So to save them these evil temptations, this was required that ladies should not travel but with mahram. Here the situation is completely different. You understand? Good. You even understood it before this asking this question. Yes, correct. Yes. All right. Thank you. Now, please give us a chance to ask Mr. to invite Mr. Bashir Hayat to put in his question. For you perhaps, something is to be explained. Mr. Bashir Hayat, the gentleman who is about to ask the question, has been participating in almost entirely all my question answer sessions. And when I say that, it's quite something, some sizable thing I'm saying. Because when I arrived in England in 1984, from April onwards, for 8 months continuously, hardly missing a day, I sat regularly in the evenings with the Jamaat to give them a chance, particularly the younger generation, to ask various questions which were agitating their minds. So in each session he was present, and in each session he stole the limelight by taking the major share in questioning, So that is why he became known the world over, because the videos were distributed to all the world and cassettes. So when sometimes I travel even as far as Fiji, some people ask me, how is Mr. Bashir here? So that is why I expressed my surprise at this lady not hearing of him. And you should have seen a disappointment at the face of Mr. Bashir. System is an invention of the Western system of democracy, but it is not very old. In fact, it took roots during the last 200-300 years. In Italy, in Europe first, as far as I remember, and it started in the religious institutions to begin with. Later on, about 200 years ago, in America, in American democracy, you also find reference of ballot system. And so the history of ballot system in Europe is not very old, very long. It only started 200 to 300, maximum 300 years ago. But voting, of course, was known to man from the times immemorial. Elections of some sorts were held everywhere in every civilization known to man. So, as far as the purpose of ballot, expressing one's opinion through ballot is concerned, the purpose is the same. There is no difference. People want to find out and to be sure as to the popular vote on certain subjects which are being discussed. But Islam, as I have explained to you, emphasized the role of expressing democratic opinions about 1400 years ago, nowhere in the world the system of ballot or writing was already introduced. So Islam only emphasized on ascertainment of the true will of the people, not even by raising of hands. This is also something which started happening later on. In those days, the general consensus of opinion was held to be enough. And as far as the religious system introduced by the Holy Quran is concerned, this analogy between democracy and Islamic system of finding out opinion is extending the matter too far. They are similar but not entirely the same. So let me first remove this one misunderstanding of yours. According to Islam, the founder of a religion is appointed directly by God. In a society which is given over to falsehood and lies, so a society which is already given over to falsehood and lies, which becomes predominantly false in its character and dishonest, no democratic system can run in that society. This is just a stupid dream that democracy can run in every society. It has a direct bearing upon the moral of a society. So if society is pure and has a stronger moral fiber and is true, generally speaking, then democracy can serve some purpose. Otherwise it is just a fraud upon the people, nothing more. So Islam is a religion of realities. What Islam speaks on this subject, I'll enlarge a little bit later on, but let me start with the beginning. A prophet is born, through whom the will of God is expressed. Now the person who is chosen for that expression is bound to be entirely true and trustworthy. Otherwise, he will not do justice to the message and he will distort it before conveying it to the people. So that is why the founder of Islam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was known in Arabia much before he claimed to be a prophet to be Amin and Siddiq and Saduq, which were the highest compliments paid by the Arabs around him to his honesty and his integrity and his trustworthiness. So a man is commissioned by God to rehabilitate the values of morality, and such man is true and such man is honest. So then he creates a society around him like a drop of yogurt builds yogurt around it when it's dropped in the milk. You know, it starts converting. Like daily you convert food into blood and such juices as are assimilable by you. So this is the process which has to be understood before you understand the democratic system of Islam. Once this society is created by the founder of a religion, who is directly commissioned by God, it is he who is the teacher. And wisdom, according to Islam, is directly coupled to fear of God and love of God. Wisdom is described in spiritual terms, not just cleverness or shrewdness, but true lasting wisdom is the wisdom which is born out of your fear of God, your consciousness of answerability, and your realization of the existence of a person to whom you will ultimately be answerable. So you cannot make a wrong move, you cannot make a false step. This is ultimate wisdom according to the definition of Islam. So then, when such a person is required to consult others, the right of decision making still lies with him. The consultation only is to gain more knowledge and to gain more angles to a question, to the angles of observation. So this is why in Islamic democracy on religious matters, the Holy Prophet ﷺ is addressed وَشَّاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. You must consult them because you are not God. You must know other people's angles and points of view, but then decide yourself after listening to them. So there is no question of anybody raising hands and majority, being given the position of dictating terms to the Prophet. He listens to the voice, various angles, and when he is visioned to the whole situation, then he decides. Then the Holy Quran says, Tawakkal ala Allah. Then because you have decided in view of what you think should be the will of God, then you do not trust those who advise you. Trust Allah then. He would be with you. So this is the true Islamic democracy. So if you have this wrong conception that Rasulullah Kareem used to ask people to raise hands and so on, this is not true. This is why many a time during our consultative sessions like Majlis Shura here today, we, the Khulafa, sometimes put a question, listen to the advices, and do not put the matter to vote at all. Then they express their decision, okay, I've understood the matter, it's enough, this should be the course of action, and everybody agrees. So unanimity is born out of this system which finds no equal in the world. Now, later on, also raising of hands came to be born, and this was sort of acquired as a system of expression of will. Because sometimes the person who is consulting you, although he knows that the final authority of decision lies with him, he wants really to know on which side the majority lies. And he would like to sympathize with the majority sometimes because the matter is not as important. Sometimes there are matters where differences are, just delicately balanced differences. This could be right, that could be right. So in such cases, he does not have to express his own will every time. So this is why this practice took birth in Jamaat Ahmadiyya. People were asked to discuss an issue, debate it, and then ultimately they were asked to express their opinion. Sometimes, in fact, most often than not, the caliph of the time agreed with the majority opinion. Because generally, when such people are enlightened and trained, they also become wise. Their decision making is highly sharpened and enlightened. So most often than not, the majority vote is considered to be on the right side by the caliph. So that is why when I studied the history of Majlis Shura during the time when I was entrusted with the task of writing the biography of the second head of the Ahmadiyya community, I went through all the papers and I was surprised to find that during a khilafat of 52 years, he only had to disagree with the majority opinion a few times. While almost every year this Majlis Shura was called and the matters were discussed in detail, he almost always agreed with the majority. But rarely when he disagreed with the majority and enforced his own decision, within a matter of a month or so, or a short time, let's say, the entire Jamaat learned that his decision was right. If he had agreed with their advice, the Jamaat would have suffered. So this is the Islamic system. Raising of hands is not essential anyway, number one. But if you do it, then it's all right, but it's only just an expression, nothing more. Now, as far as raising of hand in the democracy in general is concerned, and its comparison with the ballot system is concerned, if you ask me, I would prefer the raising of hands far more to the ballot system, because it inculcates courage in you. Open expression of your will requires courage, boldness, and your capability to stand by truth without fear of what people think of you. So this is something very important. I've seen in our Majlis Shuras, some people have only one vote for themselves. They go on expressing themselves. They do not care whether people agree with them, and they're not ashamed of it at all. They are truthful people. They are trained in this. Whatever they believe, they have the courage to express. So why should they hide their vote? When you give the chance of hiding your vote, then you also promote cowardice. You also promote hypocrisy. And when the hypocrisy is not given a chance to exercise, then different things happen. So that is why recently in the Punjab, in the assembly, the People's Party of the Punjab wanted a ballot system, not the expression of will through raising of hands. But there it was not necessarily for the sake of having an honest opinion, but it was something else. What happened there was that there were many members of the Punjab Assembly who had accepted gratifications from the ruling party and the Chief Minister of the Punjab. And morally they were bound to take sides with them after accepting those gratifications. And also some members were weak enough, they could not face the patwaris and tehsildars, the small officers of the district standing on their wrong side, because they thought if they opposed the government would have its vengeance upon them through this instrument of police officers and revenue officers and so on and so forth. So that is why People Party insisted that the vote should be by ballot, so that nobody knows who is voting for whom. And they were banking on their opinion to be in their favor if it was a ballot system. So, although the system of openness required boldness, here the purpose was not that. The purpose was to confuse things and to give chance people to be dishonest to the people who had already got a contract with them. They would side with them. So this is democracy. Anyway, you can well say it, that to uphold the values of truth and honesty and fair play, the raising of hands is a much better system, unless, of course, it is misused, let's say, for making people act dishonestly, because otherwise if they don't raise their hands, they will be caught, and the culprits will be caught and they will be punished. That is something which sometimes happens and this shows the human limitations. Even if a system is better, human beings with distorted minds can distort the systems and put it to misuse.
Jazakallah, Hazur. I'll ask the other question some other time, Hazur.
Thank you very much.
Because there may be some to ask.
Pardon?
There may